Have you ever been turned off by a church community because of the infighting? People gossiping about each other, hurting each other, and bearing grudges against each other? There's plenty of that in the world, so why can't the church be different? The truth is, not everyone in the church is like Christ. We're all on different points on the map. Some of us are intentionally and consistently moving towards the direction of becoming like Jesus. Some of us are on the map. We like that idea of becoming like Christ, but we're not committed to what it takes to become like Him. And some of us are barely on the map at all, but we haven't given up. It's just that we're kind of stuck and we're not really sure whether becoming like Christ is what we really want. The Roman society that Paul lived in delighted in any sign of disunity in the church because it gave them a reason to say, why should we join Christianity? And so Paul writes to the believers in Philippi, urging them to fight for a better witness by personally conducting themselves as Christians in the world, but also by personally contributing to the unity in the community of faith. Paul writes in Philippians chapter 1, verses 27 to chapter 2, verse 14. Whatever happens, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Then, whether I come and see you or only hear about you in my absence, I will know that you stand firm in the one Spirit, striving together as one for the faith of the gospel, without being frightened in any way by those who oppose you. This is a sign to them that they will be destroyed, but that you will be saved, and that by God. For it has been granted to you on behalf of Christ not only to believe in Him, but also to suffer for Him, since you are going through the same struggle you saw I had, and now hear that I still have. Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from His love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. The church in Philippi faced two challenges. One was the external challenge of the persecution of the world against Christians, but the second was an internal challenge of conflict within members. And so Paul says the solution to both problems is unity. But what is unity? How does one achieve unity in the church? Is Paul advocating uniformity, where everyone has a set, rigid set of standards and norms and that everybody has to abide by them? Is it the uniformity of thinking where everyone has the exact same political views and the same worldviews and the same values and the same personalities? What is unity? Paul explains in chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. In humility, value the other person above yourself. Look out for the interests of the other person before your own. In other words, Paul understands that a church community is going to be diverse, that there's going to be people with all different kinds of backgrounds, all different kinds of interests and personalities and even beliefs. But Paul is saying, if you value the other person, if you prioritize the relationship, if you see that you're both worthy and that the other person is someone you should respect and love, if you can look out for their interests above your own, then you can create a community that is connected with each other. When Paul says, strive together in the one faith, that word strive together is a Greek word from which we get the English word athletics. It's about teamwork. It's about cooperating and putting effort in together to win. And so Paul is saying when the church community puts effort together to intentionally each play his or her part so that we can achieve the goal of becoming like Christ and sharing Christ with the world, there is church community, there is unity. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a German theologian who opposed Adolf Hitler in Nazi Germany. And he wrote these 7 principles for eradicating selfish ambition from Christian community. He said, first, Christians should hold their tongues, refusing to speak uncharitably about a Christian brother or sister. If you can't say it in front of them, then don't say it behind them, right? Gossip and criticism kill love and respect. Secondly, Christians should cultivate the humility that comes from understanding that they, like Paul, are the greatest of sinners and can only live in God's sight by His grace. We judge people when we think that we're better than they are, but the truth is, we are not better than other people. We're all the same, in equal need of mercy. Number three, Christians should listen long and patiently so that they will understand their fellow Christians' need. A lot of times when we don't have that much in common with someone, we get impatient when they're talking. We're thinking about what we would rather be doing. But we need to give people our undivided attention because they're worth it. They're children of God with the image of God in them. Number four, refuse to consider their time and calling so valuable that they cannot be interrupted to help with unexpected needs, no matter how small or menial. Even now, with the you know with the lockdown and less social demands and travel time, even now we get so busy. We fill our lives with our own interests, and we miss seeing the spaces that truly need filling. Not only the hearts and lives of others that need our care, but also our own hearts and souls that need filling by spiritual eternal things. Number five, Christians should bear the burden of their brothers and sisters in the Lord, both by preserving their freedom and by forgiving their sinful abuse of that freedom. In other words, God has created each person uniquely, bearing God's own image in that person. So whether we like their individual personalities or not, Bonhoeffer says to bear the burden of the other person means involvement with the created reality of the other, to accept and affirm it, and in bearing with it, to break through to the point where we take joy in it. So, in other words, it's not about just tolerating people, but actually spending enough time with them so that eventually we delight in their unique personality. Number six, declare God's word to their fellow believers when they need to hear it. Because when you really love someone, you share the truth with them even when it's hard. And number seven, understand that Christian authority is characterized by service and does not call attention to the person who performs the service. In other words, Christians are called to follow Christ, not Christian personalities. Which one of these seven principles do you find most challenging? Perhaps you can ask God to help you identify and work on one of those principles this week. Jesus said in John chapter 13, verse 35, "They will know you are my disciples when you love one another." So our public witness is going to be infinitely greater if we really can have unity within the Christian community. So some challenge questions for you this week, some reflection questions. What is one thing you can do this week to put someone else's interests first above your own? And who is someone in the church you can get to know better this week so that you can meet their needs? During this lockdown, as we're forced to do life differently, we have the opportunity to intentionally and meaningfully make time and space for church community. Let's get through this together. God bless.